All right, what's up and what's going on, everybody? This is Alex, and this is retired first class boatswain mate Petty Officer Alexander by Navy terms. This I'm starting to journey for those that think or feel that they want to do something different in their life, right? A lot of us, we see a lot of things and we always say what we want to be, what we want to do in life to be successful, right? Especially when you reach a certain age. When you reach a certain age, everything really now is on your shoulder of how your life is going to be. Mom and daddy not going to be there to pick up the pieces now. You graduated high school, either you're going to college, or if you're lucky, you're going straight into a family business, or you just go straight to work, and that is how you want to live your life. Some of us, though, when we get out, we may be twiddling our thumbs and we're trying to figure it out. We never had a plan, right? Me, myself, I thought I was going to work in warehouses, right? That's what I grew up seeing my father work in, rest in peace. And that is what I actually did when I got out of high school. I went straight to a warehouse. Only thing, though, it was not what I thought it was going to be. So basically, we had Reagan era, that we called it, Reaganomics. And for the most part, it seemed like everybody was getting under this temporary plan where you are temporarily being hired, but you're being hired full time, right? Hired full time. So just gonna put that out there. It was not what I thought it was gonna be. The expectation does not meet what I thought it was gonna be for myself. So I was stuck in that warp. And for 2 years, I worked it, hoping that one of these days they'll call me up to the big league like they do in baseball, D-League like they do in basketball, things like that. And it never happened. So I had a car accident, got healed, and I went back to work, and I worked it probably another close to a year. And just one day, I had to catch the bus, because mind you, when I had my car accident, that pretty much wiped me out. My auntie had let me use her car for a while, and then my father, had just told me, hey, give it back, and go back to doing what you was doing, and if you get another car, then you'll work at it and make it happen, but give her a car back. So I did that. So one day I had to catch the bus, and it was already happening. It was bubbling in my spirit already, and I had to catch the bus. I have been catching this bus faithfully, on time, right? Never failed. Always pick me up to take me home on time, right? Every day, to and from. And this one particular day, I got there to the bus stop like I was supposed to, waiting on the bus, never showed, never came. So I'm sitting there, and you know how you do. You at the bus stop, you get up and you looking down the road to see if you can see it coming, and you don't see anything. Back then, we didn't have cell phones, so I can't call, I can't text nobody and say, hey man, come pick me up or anything like that. We're talking about the 80s, mid 80s. So I was young, full of energy, didn't bother me. I said, you know what, I'm gonna walk. So I just started walking. And while I'm walking, my thoughts are chewing at me, right? About how I need to find something different. Maybe I need to go back to school. Maybe I got to do something because this ain't it. And I care about myself enough that I know mom and dad not going to be here to always pick up the pieces. And, granted, they let me live under their roof. Only thing they asked me to do was help with groceries and things like that. Never bothered me about sharing the mortgage or anything like that in the house. So basically, they said, if you're going to eat and live here, at least help us out with the food. That was my father. That's how he came at me. So I was doing that. But at the same time, I realized I'm not being my man, right? I'm not being my own man. So I'm walking, and no bus. I'm walking the path that the bus is supposed to come, hoping that if I get to another bus stop, then I'll get picked up from it, right at that bus stop. Never happened. So I'm walking. I get to a light, and then all of a sudden I look over to my left, and I see this brown building, U.S. Armed Forces, right? I think it said recruiter at that time. This in St. Louis. I'm trying to remember exactly how it was on that building, but I knew what it was. It was a recruitment station. So I walked up in there and I said, whoever come to me first will be the person I'm going to talk to, right? And it happened to be this, a guy in the Navy, walked out, introduced himself, asked me what was going on, who I was. I told him. He asked me what I was there for. Was you there for the military, Navy? You know what you're trying to do? And I said, tell me about you. And then he started telling me about his life plus the Navy. Then he just asked me some questions, right, about my lifestyle. Did I love seeing, did I have a picture of seeing the world, right? Did I see myself enjoy traveling? He's saying everything to me to give me like I'm going on a cruise ship, right? I don't know anything about the Navy. I don't know anything about the military, period. I didn't come from a line of veterans, right? I just grew up around men that worked, and that's what I was used to. But I knew that this was different, right? I've seen military movies, things like that, and I know everything's not what it is in a movie, but at the same time, I've seen it. So I wasn't afraid of it. So I said yes. Then he said, well, come on in and we'll talk a little bit, see where you're at. So he asked me about my ASVAB. Did I ever take a test called ASVAB? And I said, yeah, I took it. And now I'm gonna back it up just a little bit. I said, as far as military, I didn't know a lot. But at one time, me and a friend, we were trying to go into the Marines back in 85, right? I graduated 85, sometime like 85, 86, something like that. And we were thinking about Marines. So anyway, this recruiter that I was talking to, he told me a story, just speeding it up a little bit. He told me a story, and when he told me this story, I didn't like it. So I ain't gonna lie. I went in there and I threw the test, right? I was not trying to take that test. I wanted him to leave me alone. I changed my mind. I'm not going in. The story he told me, I didn't like what I heard. So I'm like, forget all that. That sounds like it's off track. So I just let it go. And didn't do it. I don't know if he was doing it to really test me or whatever, but whatever he told me, I think I passed this test, because after that score came back, it didn't qualify me, right? And I was hoping that it wouldn't, because I didn't want to give in to it and act like I'm trying to honor my word or whatever and do this when I'm really not feeling it. So I said, no, I'm done. I just threw the test. And so he asked me about my score, and I said, well, I took one before, and I got a 26 on my ASVAB. So he said, oh, okay, well, let me check some. He said, yeah, you can get in with that score. So basically, because of what I was feeling, what I was going through, that is what led me up to being able to qualify and get into the Navy. So he said, you could take another test later, because he explained to me, this right here is how we come across you coming in and also setting you up for your job. So basically, you're gonna probably have to take it again if you wanna get something better, but you're gonna come in as a recruit, as a seaman, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm dumb. I don't even know what a seaman is. I ain't even thinking about asking. At this moment, only thing I'm trying to do is change my life. He asked me did I like traveling. He asked me did I like, what did he say? Traveling and something else he asked me. I think he put traveling and see the world at the same time. And he also said, did you like girls? Did you like women? And I said, yes, right? So all three of these characters jumped on my plate, and I was eating off all three of them, right? Travel, going places, women, yeah, all this stuff was right in my young man's mind, my psyche, right? Now, so we set this up. I go down, and the only thing I have to do now, I'm trying to remember everything, how it actually went, because we're talking about back in 1988 is when I went in. So that's a good minute off. So I retired in 2008, and I officially retired in 2018. They sent me my certificate and everything about me officially being retired out the military out the service. So anyway, we did that. I went down, took my physical, and I don't think it was too much too much more to it. Other than that, I just had to pass the physical. The other part was already done. Only thing we had to do was get the paperwork done, and that was mainly it. And then get the physical out the way, and that was it. That was my introduction into me changing my path in my life from going from civilian to now going into the branch armed services, right? U.S. branch armed services. That's what I joined. So I had to tell the old man. I hadn't told him anything. I hadn't talked to him about this. I basically was to the point that I wasn't gonna let nobody change my mind on what I wanted to get done, where I saw myself. I really didn't know. I didn't even know what this was gonna mean, me joining, right? How far this was gonna go. But I told you I retired in 2008, so I think you get the hint. I think you could pick up on the message that it worked out fine. But I told my old man, and I said that I had done it. And he looked kind of puzzled, and he said, when? And I told him when, and he said, well, what you gonna do? And I said, I'll figure it out. And when I said that, hey, he just gave me dap, and that was it. Was he hurt by it? I don't know, because my old man was solid. He was kind of dude where you couldn't get a tear out of him. Man, we had somebody pass in my family, and I'm crying my butt off. My old man ain't shed a tear. Whether he did later on, I don't know. But I come from one of those generations where men didn't cry no matter how hurt they may be, and no matter how much they love a person or whatever, he just didn't cry. So it wasn't anything to it. I guess with me leaving, he realized I was gonna become my own man, and I think he fought it back. And I could tell he did, because he was there with me every step of the way, from the time that we went fishing, the whole nine, like he was getting his last minutes in with me and all that kind of stuff. Cause me and my old man was tight. I was like his twin as far as what I was doing. I blueprinted my life around his, thinking I was gonna do the same thing he did, right? So I looked up to him, and I think he knew that, but he stood on business as a man, as my father, and he never showed any type of hurt behind it. He mainly just showed the love, right? So he stayed with me every step of the way. Man, we going fishing, we hanging out, we getting all the stuff in that we can, because he know it's coming, that I'm gonna be leaving, and he's not gonna see me anymore, at least for a minute anyway. So we did that, and everything just like that went fast, right? 2008, we go down to the station, and we jump on a train, takes me to Chicago, and we go through 8 weeks of training, right? 8 weeks of training. So letting you know, I was thin, barely 200 pounds, thin. I played basketball, right? Football and things like that on the streets is playing football, but I stayed in shape, right? I stayed in shape. I didn't eat a lot of crazy food, right? And we was always active as kids. We was always on bikes and things like that. So that's almost like when you see people riding their bikes and all that, man, we were doing all that stuff back then. And we weren't even doing it for exercise. That was just normal routine. Kids outside on their bikes. We hung out, we played outside. We wasn't inside the house playing video games or none of that. We just knew as kids to get out the house and go play. And that's what we did as kids. Now, you're gonna do 8 weeks for what I knew we did. It's 8 weeks of training. And I wanna say, was it 4 weeks of ATD? Because like I said, my ASVAB got me where I was at. So I'm learning as I grow with the Navy. So basically we get in and we do the 8 weeks of training. We're taking tests, right? You're not done. At least when we were there, you wasn't done. It wasn't guaranteed that you were gonna move ahead, because we had to take tests, right? You still had to take tests. So you had what we called CCs, company commanders, right? And mine was Johnson and another guy named Daniels or McDaniels. I know Johnson for sure, and this goes back to '88. The reason why I know them is because I had so much respect, more for Johnson than I did Daniels, because I dealt with Petty Officer Johnson more than I dealt with Daniels. So shout out to Petty Officer Daniels when I was in boot camp, because this guy was the guy that looked out for me when he realized that when I was taking my test that we had to take, I was blowing it out the water. So he was trying to get me moved up for a job rating, right? And he was looking out for me because he seen something. He said, something ain't right about you, Alexander. And I was like, what you mean? He said, these tests you taking, you blowing them out. And I was like, yeah, like that. So anyway, that was that. So he tried to get me moved up to a Boilermaker, I believe it was, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm dealing with, I think Boilermaker, but that was phasing out. So it didn't happen, no big deal. I just, like I told my old man, I'll figure it out. No big deal, I'll figure it out. So that was my introduction to boot camp. We had to take the swim test, and that was, if I remember, 15 minutes where you jump in and then you tread, and then you got to swim, and then you get out. It took me probably about 3 times, if I remember it correctly, about 3 times for me to pass that test. And the only thing that was hard for me to do, I could swim, but I never treaded. So I had to learn how to lay on my back and, just float. As long as nobody got nervous and pulled you, you could stay afloat. So it took me 3 times. First time, failed on my own. Second time, I'm doing everything right, and somebody freaked out, hit me. That made me lose my balance in the water. Next thing I know, I'm back in tread mode trying to tread, and I'm sinking. So I had to go back. Took it a 3rd time, and that's when everything worked itself out. I'm floating. I passed. I'm done. That's it. Reason why I knew I was done, because I got so excited that I forgot what hall it was in. But back then, we had pay phones, and we just had these phones, period. So I was supposed to be heading back to our company, which was 318 in the boot camp, right? Company 318, that was us. And I was supposed to be heading back. I seen these phones. So I grabbed it, and I hit it, and sure enough, bad luck. As I hit the phone, I'm talking, somebody see me on the phone in the hallway, they're like, hey, can't run, where I'm gonna run to? Hung the phone up, and I just stayed there. He said, who's your company commander? I told him who it was. What company you in? I told him what company it was in. Next thing I know, they found out about it, and he asked me what was going on. I said, man, I was so happy, Petty Officer Johnson, I'm sorry. I forgot what name we called him too. I don't even think we called him Petty Officer. I think we called him something else, man. That's our leaders. That's our company commanders. And I think we just went by sir. I think they got I think they had the expert of being sir, right, when that happened. And I just told him I was so happy that I passed the swim test, and I seen the phone, and I just called my old man and told him what it was. He said, don't deal on the phones no more. And that was it. He let it go. He did, man, because like I said, that's why I say shout out to Petty Officer Johnson, because he was my first petty officer. He was the first class, but he was the first person I met that, was human at the same time. And the reason why I know he was that, because when it was Thanksgiving, right, instead of, if you didn't have family like in Chicago or something like that, and I'm trying to remember it correct, I know that they set it up where he grabbed like 4 of us, 5 maybe, and he took us to his house to eat Thanksgiving dinner. And it's in boot camp, right? We fell in during the holidays for Thanksgiving, and he invited us to his house. We ate, we went outside, we played football, the whole 9. And for that moment, that day, we were just human, right? Now, once we got back to the boot camp time, that's when, everything goes back to normal. Push the racks back, right? Any time of the night, this can happen. So get ready for it if they still do it. I'm not really sure, but back then we called it pushing back the racks. Time to make it rain, and we pushed the racks back. And if you were already used to it, it didn't bother you. You just went along with the game, right? There was nobody trying to hurt you, nobody trying to kill you or anything like that. They just got us in shape and let us know that anything can happen at any moment. But their moment was they can come in there at any time, tell us to get up out them racks, and then everybody hit it, right? So we're doing push-ups, sit-ups, right? We're making it rain. And sure enough, if you had good eyesight, you could see a little fog in the room. It actually would happen when that took place. So we pushed the racks back, we hit it, right? Sometimes if somebody did something stupid, yeah, and they found out about it, you best believe they're mad, because while they're sitting at home, they get a phone call that their company is out of whack and got caught up because we had RPOCs. And sometimes when you get an RPOC, they're like the leader of our group. That's going to be just a regular person who they feel has an IQ high enough that they can train them. And when they're not around, this is back in '88, so this is different compared to what it may be now. I don't know if they still do it now, but I'm giving you an idea of what it was like. So basically, this guy becomes our APOC, and he's responsible for lining us up, making sure we're good as far as heading to child, heading to our studies, right? Our classes that we got to go to, if we got to go to the gym, and if we got to go in there and do our physical fitness and all that. He was the guy that did the cadence, right? So if we're doing cadence and we're coming across another company, he's supposed to be able to know how to guide us, to be able to step to the side or whatever we got to do, and he runs the show, right? Now, I knew one time we did something out of line, and I remember Daniels, I think it's Daniels, he had a Jeep, one of them Bronco Jeeps, and you could tell it was his because you would hear that engine revving up. So at this time, I'm not even hip to these guys got vehicles and everything. I'm learning as we go along, man, that there's a whole nother world. Even though it's military, these guys have vehicles, the whole nine, right? Because when you're looking at movies, the only thing you see is them in around Army gear. You never see them driving normal cars, right? So here he come in the Bronco. We hear him. All of a sudden he hit it, and then he yelling at us. I see y'all over at the. I see you back at the. I forgot where we was in. But anyway, he said we'll see us back at the building where we was at. And somehow something happened. I don't know what it was. But when he came in, oh my God, I don't know if it was true or not, but that guy had us hit these push-ups where you go down and you hold, come back up, go down, you hold, come back up, and you better be in shape because he put it on us, right? I remember that. So those are some of the days that you will face. If you get the right company commander, right, they're going to drive you, they're going to grind you, but at the same time, they're going to be human, right, when it's all said and done. So it's a game, but you got to know how to play it. You got to know how to play it. So me coming from where I'm coming from, plus I was already working, so I'm used to being around men, the whole nine. I'm used to the chaos of life and things like that because I put myself in chaos, right? As far as school, growing up, crazy stuff that I was doing as a kid, the whole nine. I was not your kid that you can that you can guarantee gonna give you A's, straight A's, A's and B's and stuff like that. If I gave my mother and father my report card, they would sit there and already have that look on their face like you know, they already know what they're gonna open it up to. When they see it, they just pass it on and get to my sister. She was a straight A student. My brother, he was the same way. He had okay grades and things like that of things he liked, but he had some bad setbacks too and stuff he didn't do good in. But my sister was straight A. So they always look forward to her report card. When it came to me and my brother, was always like, let me see it. You need to bring this up. You need to bring this up. What you doing in that class? You should have fit. Why are your grade like that? That's how we ran into that type of lifestyle with my parents. But that is what it was at that moment, right? So growing up at that time frame. But I was used to it. So I never got myself out of being able to handle that situation of boot camp, right? And when I heard my company commander say, something ain't right about you, Alexander, and I didn't ask him what you mean, I think because one day, like I said, Johnson was cool as hell. He was cool, he was. And he had a sense of humor the whole night. He wasn't soft, he wasn't weak. If we doing what we ain't supposed to be doing, you best believe he's gonna hammer us because he cannot afford to pass people and just let them into the military knowing what he knows. So he knew how to play it right. It was like good cop, bad cop. Daniels was like the bad person cop, and Johnson was like the good one, but he wasn't sympathetic. He would lay it on you. He would lay it on you if he had to, but he still was passionate. That's what I remember about him. So it's almost like we had these two people playing off of each other, and one is this way, the other one's this way, and it is what it is. I think they switch it up too. One of them, they probably switch it up with the next one where they're this and the other person's that. So that's the way I read into it. But for all it's worth, when boot camp is over, then you're gonna go to what they call ATD, which is like a training facility for what your job is going to be. So you're going to study what you are. There was a seaman, so we had to take these tests and all that. And I remember when we got done with boot camp and we went to school, we had got the old briefcases, right, from other classes that were graduating. Once they graduate, you find out who's got what, and then you go and seek people out, and you get their briefcases from them, right? I can't remember, did we pay them anything or something like that, or did they gift us or whatever? But I knew I got mine from a fellow ATD person that went to school, and I got that. And since it's wintertime, right, we got these black raincoats that we treated like trench coats is what we wore. And we would all put those on. Like I say, man, when I went in, everything was like pretty laid back for what it was worth to me anyway, in my mind, because I was never afraid of it, I think. I seen other seamen that was with us or other recruits that was with us that actually broke. We had one guy that I remember, we heard the door, right? And, you know, a lot of time we lightly slept because you didn't know, right? We're around a bunch of people that we never seen before. Cultures are different. So you don't know what's on people's mind. You hear things, you watch, and you observe. And when you are all in that same fit together, you want to make sure that you can, if you get lucky, that you can put yourself close to somebody that you feel you can trust, right? In case it does jump off. So you kind of slept light, being real. I remember that. This is in the 80s, man. So it wasn't all that everybody's here and kumbaya. We still got culture clashes, right? I still got stories of people that came from different places that let you know they only got along with you because they had to, right? But if it was up to them, hey, they wouldn't shake a stick towards your way to save you, right? And some of the recruits let you know that. So that's not watered down, that's the truth. Some of them were actually like that. But they knew what they were there for. So nobody caused no ripples. But going back to this story about the guy, and this was our first RPOC, our original RPOC that led us. And for some reason, he broke, man. And we heard the door like slam, and this guy just took off. And I want to say we called it Pork Chop Hill in Great Lakes. And he ran across that whole piece, and he just took off, and he was running. And he was running for the fences to try to get up out of there. I don't know, I'm thinking they caught him. If they didn't catch him, then they caught him later, right? But it was that he broke north. He couldn't take it. And I remember the reason why is because he couldn't handle the responsibility. He walked into it. They just looked at scores and said, you're going to be in charge. And they taught him things and all that kind of stuff. And I can't remember, did we get in trouble because of him supposed to be leading us and something happened and was out of whack? Because like I told you, when Daniel said, I see y'all when we get back, when I see y'all back at the dorm or whatever, something happened. So when he came in, we made it rain for some reason. I don't know what it was, but I know we had to make it rain. And later on that night, if it's not that night, some nights later, I just know he took off and never heard from him again. And then we had this other guy take over, right? And he was pretty cool. He did what he was supposed to do, had us for the whole time. So we did that. And, that was my introduction to boot camp. So I put stories to it to let you know what it was like. But for the most part, that is your first step, your first phase that you go through when you leave home. And then you go to either Great Lakes or wherever else you go to now. I know ours was Great Lakes. I know they had the West Coast. I didn't get that. My partner who went in before me, he got it. They sent me, though, to Great Lakes is where they sent me to. And it was cold. I remember that. So another thing, if you do decide to go in, I would suggest try to go in during sometime between late winter, early spring. Because by the time it gets hot, at least you probably be out of there and done. But if you going during the wintertime or you going during the summertime and you talking about marching and things like that in that heat, that is when you pay the price. We did ours in the cold, so it wasn't that bad. But I remember back in the old days, we got checks, right? We still got paid checks. And we would have to go to payroll and get our checks. And once we got them, we had to go get them cash. And we would be standing in line and you would stand close to your shipmate, right? That we call it. And we call it nut to butt. So that's giving you the name that we called it in boot camp. It was nothing but, and you had to get warm because you would have to get your check one at a time, and then you have to go stand in line, and you didn't move until that next person was done. Until the last person was done, that is when you took off to go back to whatever you had to do next. And so, yeah, that phrase was actually used in Great Lakes because it was so cold, and you had to get warm to keep the heat between you and the next person. So basically, you get close as you could. And then when it's time to leave, you take that step forward, then everybody get in march line up, and then you just take off. So, yeah, that was one of the things. Nothing but is what they called it. So those were some of the names they gave to the military side of the house as far as how you describe what you were doing. But all in all, boot camp was boot camp, right? Oh, going back, the other one was, as soon as we got there, I remember the night we arrived, that is how we met our POs, because we checked in, they took us to where we were supposed to be at. I don't even think this was the company yet. I don't think it was. I think it was some kind of way when we was on the train. We got there it seemed like about 11, maybe 12 that night. We checked in. I remember they took our bags, our gear and all that. We signed. They took that from us. And then we looked like we were supposed to be going to sleep. As soon as we laid down and it seemed like we got comfortable, that is when they flew into the room, and that's how we met our company commanders. They came in, woke us up, everybody up out of bed, like we being checked in hard. They let us know already, this ain't no game, time to get busy. I can't remember if we had to do anything. I don't think we did, but I think we stood at attention while they walked us through everything. And then it seemed like just as fast as we laid down again, we were back up because now it's time to go. You got 8 weeks to get this done. So we're moving. We're moving. You are moving, right? When you're not doing anything, you're studying, right? When you're not doing anything, you're studying. Sundays were the only time that we really had free time to ourselves. And at that time, that's when you actually are studying or you shining up your boots and all that kind of stuff. I can't remember if we were able to go to a gym at that time and play ball or something like that on a Sunday. But I know in AT, when I was going to ATD school, we could. But as far as boot camp, I can't remember if we had that luxury of being able to go and play basketball. I don't think we did. I just think that we had to, we was just an off day on a Sunday, and either we clean, you be doing something, studying. If you were hurting on the test, you get your study group together, and then you would study to make sure that you're ready for the next test that's coming up. Because that was my time. We took tests through the 8 weeks that we were there. I think we took maybe four tests we had to take, maybe 5. I can't remember how many we really took, but I know we studied them and we had to know all these things or whatever, and we just took these tests and you had to pass them. And I don't know if they ever put people out, but I know they had setbacks. I forgot what they called it. But if something happened, if it had to do with physical or had to do with the test, they would ASMO them back a week or something like that. Because I remember we had some guys that joined us, and I think they were supposed to be gone, and they got ASMO back to us, right? So we had a couple of other guys join us as far as that goes. But boot camp, for the most part, was my introduction. So if you're thinking about joining, I would highly recommend that if you got your mind made up that it's what you're gonna do and you're not waiting on anybody's permission, then I would say just do you. Just make sure whatever branch you decide to go in, you're gonna be happy by making that choice and that decision. Because once you get there, you better be paying attention and be on your P's and Q's because you made that decision. They didn't handcuff you. They didn't do anything to you. There's no draft or anything like that. You made that decision. So, hey, what you gonna do? Now you here, what you gonna do? You proving yourself every day that you're there. Every day. That is how you continue going. That's another conversation. But just saying, if you ever decide that's something you want to do, and if you do want to talk to somebody, whether it's somebody that was already in, right, that you know of, hey, pick their brain. Find out if that branch is something they think you qualify for. They can look at you and tell, hey, you do good here, right? If they know you, they'll say, yeah, you can do that. I can see you doing that. You can do that, right? If the Marines, they'll probably say, yeah, I can see you doing that. Army, Air Force, Coast Guard, whatever. They'll say, yeah, I can see you doing that if that's what you decide you want to do. If you got to talk to family, you better make sure that you be ready for the response of the negativity, because you might have somebody say, oh, well, you want to go do that for, right? And then try to talk you out of it. Be strong enough to say, look, I'm just talking to you about it. I wasn't really seeking your permission, right? I'm not really seeking that, what you're giving me. If you can't be happy for me, this is what I want to do. This is my life. I'm old enough now that I think I want to run it the way I want to run it. And I came to you and talked to you about it. But at the same time, I was looking for you to hold me down, right? So that's what you're really looking for. You're not looking for somebody to talk you out of it, be negative. You want them to hold you down. So that's why you do it. But I would say, make sure that you really doing it because you want to make a change or make a difference in your life. You get what I'm saying? And if you just come from a family that everybody was military, hey, it's a no-brainer. You know why you're doing it, right? You just keeping up the legacy. That's in your, because some people go in there and they want to be officers. Officers aren't grown. They're made into being officers. Some of them come in automatic being officers. Their family were officers. So they already got that gene already there where they know what buttons they got to push and how to proceed at that situation, know how to become an officer. And then some people, they become enlisted and then they go into officer program. So that's another one too. So some people used to be a petty officer, and then they wind up being chief warrant officers, or they wind up just being an officer themselves, right? But it's out there for you. So that is part of that, and that is my introduction. Hope you got something out of it. That is how I wind up joining, and you might have that same situation going on with you, and you're trying to decide of why you want to do it. You get what I'm saying? So I gave you my reason of what made me do it. You may have one for why you're doing it. And then it could be, like I say, just something in the family. It's in the genes that everybody was in the military before. So with that said, I'm out. Y'all be cool. Peace.